We are nearly there, our penultimate episode before the 2025 NFL draft, and there is tons of scuttlebutt, so many reports out there, draft intel. We'll try to make sense of all of it at the top of the 2025 NFL draft. What is real and what is not right now?
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Love and appreciate all of our everydayers out there. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're getting so close to the NFL draft, and we'll keep it going, breaking down the entire draft, post-draft, and getting you ready for camp and the 2025 regular season every single day as we do here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Subscribe on YouTube and anywhere you listen to your podcast. Do that right now. Pause and subscribe. Helps us out tremendously. And welcome to the show if you are new. And there's a lot going on. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, and might be a perfect time to use some of this information. Go to FanDuel.com right now. New customers get $250 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That is FanDuel.com to get started. A lot of late draft information, Matt. And what happens, in my opinion, in draft season and lying season, as it is known, is you get the tape reports, which are pretty accurate, but not complete information on all these prospects. And that happens throughout the fall and leading up to the combine. Then you get the combine bump where guys work out great and their stock shoots up and other stuff comes down. Then it starts to normalize a little bit. And then people start talking. And you start hearing throughout all the pro days and all the combine and everyone getting together at the Senior Bowl and all this. They start talking. A lot of lies are out there. But what happens is the closer you get to the morning of the draft, you start getting more and more truths in there. And that's where it gets difficult. And so I think the percentage of truths to lies gets much higher where we are sitting now the day before the NFL draft on Wednesday morning. So let's try to make sense of some of this, Matt, as we go through this thing. I think one of the clear truths that we can move past quickly is Cam Ward at 1.
Right, 100%. Well, first of all, happy draft day eve to you and to all our listeners. I truly had a hard time sleeping on draft day eve as a kid.
Yeah,
I could sleep better on Christmas Eve than draft day.
Oh, dude, yeah, this is the real Christmas for sure.
100%. I think the top three are basically set in stone. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that we have to spend a lot of time there.
Hold on just a second.
Okay.
Jerry Jones telling the world that he's up to something maybe big. Is it not set in stone in the top three if the Dallas Cowboys move from 12 all the way up to number 2 to draft Travis Hunter, which is one of the latest rumors? I think we got to squash that first before we get to where the draft really starts at pick 4.
So I'm glad you brought that up because I always find it funny, and we spent some time on it on my Steelers show. We talked about Tomlin and Omar Khan. You know, that yesterday was the day where a lot of coaches and GMs spoke about pre-draft, which I always find funny because all the reporters that were down there were grumpy. Like, he's not going to tell us anything. Like, of course they're not going to tell you anything. You're like, what do you think they're going to say?
In fact, so perfect example. I covered the Niners. John Lynch talked yesterday.
Right.
And he'll say one thing and you're like, oh, it's Shamar Stewart. Then he goes, but you don't want to but college production is important. And you're like, okay.
No.
It's like, he always finishes every thought with the opposite thing that he said at the beginning. He's like, trade down, but we could trade up too. And you're like, okay. So you go up or down. You can draft any player. You like traits, but you also like production. Cool. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, like the stuff the Steeler guys said it's a really good running back draft. Like, we all know that, things that are maybe slightly insightful. They said little things like, we're probably not going to trade up. Well, they don't have a second round pick. We know they're not really going to trade up. They might trade down, of course. But anyway, that brings us to Jerry. Jerry's old and doesn't care. And who's going to tell him no? He's basically like, yeah, we're working on some substantial trades. Like, what? Who tells you that? Nobody asks, hey, Jerry, you're working on substantial trades? Yes, in fact, we are. He just brings it up.
And there's a lot of Cowboys haters out there, and I get it. I love that there's Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys in the league, not because of their popularity, but because he doesn't care. Like, he'll take a photo in front of his draft board.
Right. That's the best. Yeah.
No other team in the league lets people see their draft board. He doesn't care. And I think that it shouldn't be. These are not like government secrets, man. It's just a draft board, right? Mm-hmm. The draft is over. It's done. It should be mandatory from the league that every team sends their final draft board to the reporters once the draft is over, right? It's not a secret, man.
Well, the reason they don't, and I know you know this, is because the guy you take in the second round was like your 8th ranked corner, and you have a big red flag next to his name and a big character issue card next to him, and
I get that, but like all of these leaked draft boards for the Cowboys hasn't changed anything, so who cares?
No, right?
It's not that big of a deal, but they treat it as such, and it would be, it's and I think GMs really it's more about. They don't want people to know that they got it wrong. Then they're trying to we don't want people to know that this guy who becomes a free agent in 4 years, we had a high grade on. It's just that they don't want people coming because you make so many mistakes as it is, right? They don't want people scrutinizing it even more.
You're never going to look good.
Yeah.
But anyway, the speculation, which I don't really buy, is Dallas is trying to get the 2. Obviously, Jerry and the Cowboys have a Dion, Colorado connection. Hunter would be kill 2 birds for him, and they definitely need a receiver. They definitely need a corner.
Yep. Star power. They love it there. Yeah. I mean, you have to dip into next year's first round, right?
I would think.
Clearly. I mean, you have to. From 12 to 3, you have to.
Yeah.
In fact, the 49ers moved from 12 to 3 in 2021. They gave up 2 future first round picks.
Yeah.
And a 3rd.
And if I'm the Browns, I'm listening. I mean, I love Hunter, but not to the point. I mean, there's also some headaches of what meeting rooms you go into, and I'll go to 12 and take a lineman.
If you're going to spend a lot to trade up, you have to get Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter or a quarterback.
Yeah. 100%.
Especially in the first half of the draft. Back half of the first round, I think there's going to be a ton of action, ton of movement. Probably the most telling thing. The most telling thing, in my opinion, that John Lynch said is they have 20 first round grades, which is pretty standard amount. I think there was rumors that maybe some teams had 12 or 11 first round grades in this class. I think teams have a little bit more, but that also means maybe some of those players fall. And so if you're at the end of the first round, you want one of your first round grades. Now you're more willing to move up, whereas teams aren't going to be willing to move up because I think most of those 20 first round grades are very close grades. So a lack of movement early in the draft, probably a lot of movement at the end of the first round of the draft Thursday night. That's what I'm expecting right now.
I agree with all that. I also think tackles and edge guys are going to go faster than we think. And maybe things like tight ends and running backs won't, and quarterbacks maybe too. Last little nugget, I don't want to spend too much time in Dallas. There's a lot of, and Schefter just laid out like 10 big name players, Tyreek Hill, that could be moved these coming days. Maybe Dallas is interested in trading for a player.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
player trades. There's a lot on the table. So what that means from Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, I don't know, but
could be nothing.
I think that passes the BS meter. I think they're up to something. Will they finalize that? Is it going up to get Travis Hunter at 2? Probably not. So let's move on to pick 4. Right?
I don't envy the Pats at all.
The Pats are going to get the same value at 4 as the team drafting 20.
I kind of agree. Yeah.
And that's why no one's going to trade up, most likely.
Right.
And so if you're the Pats, you have to stick and pick. So if you're going to stick and pick, who's the best player in the draft? Is it so important to chase need? Can you not go draft Ariante Ursary in the second round if you're the Patriots and just draft whoever you think the best player is, regardless of need, at pick number 4? But then at the same time, if they're all the similar grades, then who is the best player? I don't know. Maybe it is just Will Campbell.
I don't think it is. I have a lot of skepticism about Campbell as a prospect. I mean, the 2 games he had the hardest time with were the edge rushers that have length that are going to the NFL. Yeah. And I mean, even I'm sure he'd be fine at guard. I mean, so there is a parachute there, but even he's kind of narrowly built for a guard too. I mean, like he doesn't look like Zach Martin,
The way he plays and his height and he's a little upright in his stance. He has an interesting set.
It's a weird stance.
It's
You don't
more
teach
of a
your kids to
tackle
do that.
stance.
Yeah.
It's not as long as you'd want with arm. If he had 35-inch arms, it'd be like, okay, pick 4, you're a tackle. Let's go. But he's had trouble with the length. So it's on tape too. So that's kind of the issue.
He's going to get it every week. I would not use the 4th pick on him, but boy, I mean, like they want Joe Alt to be in this draft. Right. That's it. That would be.
So let me put it to you this way. You have to make a pick. So if you don't pick Will Campbell, who do you pick? You take a running back?
No.
He'll have the best. Jeanty will have the highest grade on your draft board at 4. Is that
I'm not condoning this, and I know you wouldn't condone it, but I could see them considering Jalen Walker or Warren. I mean,
I'm all the way out on Warren. Jalen Walker.
Me too. I wouldn't do either.
Here's the problem: is I don't think Warren or Jalen Walker is more worthy of the pick than Will Campbell. And
that's
so if
the
it's
thing. They have just as many awards.
So everything still leads you back to Will Campbell at 4.
I know.
Unless, how about this? I'm doing a mock right now. Armand Membo. Okay, if you don't like the upside, then you stick at the position and you draft the next Tristan Wirfs.
I think that's what I would do when it's said and done. And if for some
Membo,
reason he's incapable of going the left side, well, then Morgan Moses, you're going to have to learn to play guard or something. I mean, Morgan Moses shouldn't impede me taking the best lineman I possibly can. And every lineman that was drafted in the first round last year basically had the flip sides. I didn't think Latham was a left tackle either.
Yep. All right. We figured
Membo's a much better prospect to me than Campbell.
That's it. It has to be the pick then. That's the pick.
Should be.
Okay. We got that one figured out. Let's talk 5 through 11.
But real quick, if I'm 5 or 6, so I know we're going to talk about them, I think I want Membo. I mean, that's my pick if I'm the Jag. I mean, the spoiler alert, I think that's my pick if I'm the Jag. That's my pick if I'm the Raiders.
Okay. Well, then that's the pick. And
the Jets.
I'm going to tell you how to make the most accurate mock draft, by the way, as well. And it's tied to that idea next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of those NFL draft props. They're a lot of fun, and I think it's one of the best. I think it's the best opportunity you have against the house all draft season long. And it's your last chance to get in there and take advantage of some of these rumors, whether you buy them or not, and especially earlier in the process if you believe something before it happens. The NBA playoffs, by the way, are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on that action because right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet wins. We're talking 3-pointers, steals, assists. FanDuel has so many ways to bet on your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can even combine those live prop bets into same game parlays for a bigger chance to win. You can also do draft parlays as well and put some bets together and go really big. So don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. That is FanDuel.com. So, Matt, going on to pick number 4. Okay, so by the way, the best, most accurate mock drafts I've ever done, Matt, is I take need out of it because I take the team out of it. I go, who's the best player? Okay. I list the best players 1 to 10, and
BP's big board.
That is the most accurate mock drafts I've ever done. What was the year with Surtain, Sauce Gardner? The Sauce Gardner draft.
Sauce Gardner, Sauce together.
Right.
Yeah,
that draft I had, I think, 9 picks in a row, except I had Sauce and Stingley flipped. Because all I did, no teams, no needs. Here are the 10 best players in the draft. And I think I hit 9 in a row, but flopped. I had Sauce 3rd, Stingley 4, and they went backwards 3 and 4.
I think this year in particular, drafting for need is bonkers.
So that's where we have to be, but need might be tiebreaker if you have very similar grades, which is why need might be more accurate this year. But if we're doing it the way we're just talking about, Membo at 4. So now we get
that's what I would do. Yeah.
And now Membo's gone. So what are we talking about? Jeanty at 5 to the Jaguars then. And Mason Graham has been I still think Mason Graham makes a lot of sense. I think his tape is great. I think Mason Graham is the defensive line version of Will Campbell. I think the floor is super high. I think if you want to hit a double, you draft one of those guys and go to sleep at night and sleep well, because you might get a lot of different results if you draft Shamar Stewart or Walter Nolan or Jalen Walker or, come on, a tight end. I am not buying the tight end stuff, Matt. I am not at all. And it might happen, but NFL GMs, what are we doing if we're drafting these two tight ends specifically in the top 10? They're fine prospects. I like them. But tight ends have been bad bets in drafts anyway. And you're going to draft them 5 to 8 picks higher than Brock Bowers went last year? Like, what are we doing? One of them doesn't even block very well.
Yeah, let's stick with that. I mean, it's bothered me from the start that why do the Colts have to have a tight end? They're never going to throw the ball, and they've got good receivers anyways. Because Anthony Richardson needs a tight end. I mean, draft a guard.
Didn't Peter Schrader from NFL Network has been one of the more accurate mock drafters recently.
Yeah, he put one out today.
When did Schrader become like this insider? All of a sudden, he just pops up with random inside information sometimes, and so people really trust his mock drafts. He dropped his mock draft this morning and had the Colts trading all the way up to pick 10, I think.
I'm going to look real quick. I think it's 10 because he had Warren going to the Jets at 7 and the Colts go into 10 to get Loveland. Like, why do they have to have a tight end? And why would they trade up for one?
Right. And then Mason Graham in that mock draft, and there's been really late information that Mason Graham might be tumbling down draft boards and isn't going to the Jaguars at 5. Like, I think it was maybe somebody big reported like Graham's not going to the Jaguars at 5. And that's been one of the most popular mock draft picks that there's been. And Schrader had
these names getting locked to the Jags more and more.
Yeah. And I believe, Matt, if I'm not mistaken, you were the first one to put Jeanty
I think so.
In a mock draft.
I had never seen it before when I did it. So in my mind, I was the first.
The first I saw. And I know me too. It wasn't put in your mind by somebody else's mock draft.
I mean, it's Tampa Bay head coach,
Yeah. And so you're trying to help out, get the best offensive player to help out your quarterback is why you hired that head coach. So that makes sense to draft. There's been talk about maybe it's still a receiver there, or maybe it is a tight end there, right? Because you're trying to help out your quarterback if that's the idea. Best offensive skill player, but that would be Jeanty in this case. But the other one, real quick, is Mason Graham falling all the way out of the top 10. And I've been saying that that's like the best fit for the 49ers because they need to double more than anybody on the defensive line. And Schrager even had the Niners not taking him at 11. And Graham falling all the way to 13 with Walter Nolan going 11 to the Niners. So do you buy the Graham fall is one of the big ones here with Schrader's mock. And then the tight end stuff. I can't buy 2 tight ends in the first because we're just talking about, Mason Graham, not really. Maybe he's not the traditional top 10 pick physically. Will Campbell, maybe he's a guard. So maybe he's not a traditional top 10 pick. I'm taking those 2 guys all day long over a tight end. And especially these 2 tight ends. They're fine prospects again, but what are we doing?
I think tight ends are more like Chargers at 22. I mean, I don't 100% buy tight ends going high at all. I'm with you on that. Now, here's one thing. It just kind of dawned on me. Your Graham Campbell comparison is fantastic. And I don't want to take either one at 4 and 5. And where I'll fight you, though, is I don't think that's a leadoff double. I think that's a leadoff hit by pitch. Like, I got the first. But I don't like the way I got there, and I'm not sleeping happy at night because it's not all. You don't feel like you got
crazy. You don't feel like you got crazy value, but you didn't. You have a base runner. You didn't strike out, right?
Right. They'll do something for you.
You're going to sleep better with Shamar Stewart.
No, I'm not saying I would take somebody different. I'm just saying how I got on base was not a double off the wall. I got hit in the head.
But in this scenario, you're like, if the Pats taking Will Campbell at 4. You're like, oh, that wasn't, amazing, probably a draft pick, but we had to pick somebody and we liked him the most. We believe in him, high character, all this stuff. But if you are like in Schrager's mock, if you are the Dolphins at 13 and you get Mason Graham there, you're like, oh, cool.
Different world.
We got a Mason Graham at 13. We didn't think he'd be here a month ago.
Even the Niners, etc. So I'm stealing this from Kate Madjuk off Locked On Dynasty. We just recorded it before we hit record. And we were talking about some of this Schrager mock and landing spots for running backs and receivers and quarterbacks because it's fantasy. And I like the way she said it. She's like, okay, Jeanty to the Tampa Bay head coach makes a lot of sense to the Jags, especially they're in no man's land. But she's like, do any team want to trade out of their spot more than 4 and 5? I mean, that's a desert wasteland to me. And there's all kinds of Jeanty to Raiders conversation. If I can just throw a nugget out there, we really want Jeanty. Maybe you convince the Bears to come up, or Sean Payton gives you the house to come to 5. And then you're like, whew, I got out of the spot I don't want to be in.
That's a good one. Let's talk about 20, because outside of the top 12 or so that we're going to talk about here, Broncos are interesting. There's been talk that they're trying to get up in this draft. Maybe one of the few teams that is interested in trading up in the top 20 of this NFL draft next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25, Call of Duty Black Ops 6, and Avowed. As easily as you stream your favorite shows, it's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. Talking about the latest technology, Wi-Fi 6, auto low latency mode, advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds. You need to stay competitive, plus stream all your favorite shows, endless entertainment, Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Max, Disney Plus, Max, and more. All your favorite subscribed services. Just head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. That is Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On. I'm calling BS on the Denver Broncos drafting a running back at 20 or trading up for a running back. What do you think?
Well, this leads me to part 2 of that conversation. There's so much Travion Henderson buzz right now. And
he's a dude, and that's exactly why you don't draft a running back early.
Right. And I think his over-under on FanDuel right now is at like 22 overall. And he's great in protection, and I do know the Steelers like him. They picked 21. Denver's right in that neighborhood. Chargers are right in that neighborhood. They all could. I doubt the Chargers would, but maybe they'd consider running backs. But do we really think 3 running backs are going in the top 22? I mean,
it's possible.
It's possible. They're good players.
Prospects. And I've had Travion Henderson as my running back too. I think phenomenal fit for the wide zone teams specifically.
Yeah.
The way he can get his foot in the ground and hit it at those cutbacks and just go and passing down value. But there's a lot of good running backs, man. I would say wait. I get it if you really like Jeanty and he falls into the teens and moving up, but with how high you probably have to go to get Jeanty and even O'Marion Hampton, I would just wait. Trade up in the.
I can't say trading up for
the Broncos. Draft somebody else. You get one of those clean first round prospects at 20. You might be in a really good spot to get a nice player there, and then trade up from your second round pick to get a running back.
I think how it'll go is maybe we'll get a couple spattered in the first 45 picks or so, and then there'll be a drought. And then round 4, they'll be like running back. You know, like we got second round grades on these guys or whatever.
And here's the Bears have those 2 second round picks. Get a running back there, even move up a couple spots from there so you can get a different player that's not going to be there on the defensive line in the second round there. But I get, I would get it if Jeanty fall. It's like a fall to 10 now. It feels like for Jeanty.
I think he's definitely going to the top 10 though.
Jeanty, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's so good.
Yeah. Where are we right now? The Raiders, I think it was McShay that said something like, could the lying part, and by the way, speaking of lying, Sean Payton loves to lie. He did it last week.
Yeah.
He laughed about how he did it and made everybody think he wanted JJ McCarthy, and actually it was Bo Nix all along for him. So that's one of the easiest lies in this draft. Oh, we want to trade up for a running back or whatever it is. So someone
they'll take a D lineman or
they want a D lineman to fall or whatever it is. Yeah, or a corner, who knows what it is. Anyway, with McShay put it out there that he thinks maybe a team like the Patriots could be lying about the Jaguars wanting Jeanty, so that way a team will come up with them to trade in front of the Jaguars like the Raiders.
Okay, that's kind of like Kate's theory. I want
Right.
out of 4 and 5.
Yeah. So put all the rumors out there of all the other players that aren't really going to go there just to see if a team wants to come up, and I buy that as a big time lie too. So maybe
a lot of
the
that
Jaguars
is going
doing
on
it.
for sure.
Yeah, because you would rather draft Will Campbell at 10 than 4 and get picks for doing it, right? So that's an obvious easy one for the Pats. Why would they put that out there?
So this is going to seem odd, and I kind of mentioned before, but as we talk through this, Membo to me is the benefactor. Like, again, I just said I would take Membo at 4 for the Pats. I think I'd take Membo at 5 for the Jags. We're talking about Membo, and Traeger has them going 6 to the Raiders. So would they take Membo or Jeanty? I would take Membo. Would you take Warren or Membo? I would take Membo. Like all 4 of those teams, true target to me should be Membo.
Where do the Raiders go if it's Membo 4, Jeanty 5?
I don't know.
Because and that's
McMillan
a couple of mock drafts. It's really easy to just be like, I'm going to put Jeanty at 6 and then make my mock draft easier. But it's not going to be that.
Do you buy Ted McMillan potentially being a top 10 pick? I can
No
see him
idea
going to the Cowboys at 12.
I have not seen eye to eye with everybody about all these wide receivers all along anyway. People have Tet as like a second round guy. I don't see that. I like Tet McMillan. I think he has to be the right fit. I think some teams are going to have Luther Burden's my top receiver.
Mm-hmm. Both of them have effort issues.
I think he's the guy he's the classic guy. He's going to fall. And we're like, what the hell were we thinking? He was awesome. He's too twitched up. He's too good. He's good in the short area, instant offense, give him the ball immediately. He's really good getting the ball down the field as well. If I keep saying it, Luther Burden ends up with the Chiefs. It's like, come on, what are we doing, guys? And we just let Luther Burden with the Chiefs. I think Tet McMillan isn't for everybody, but he's kind of like T. Higgins, right? And if he goes to the right team and a quarterback that's got a big arm that's willing to give him those shots down the field, I don't love him in the short to intermediate area. I think he can't get off the line great. I would like to see more refined route running from him in the short to intermediate. So it's the right team, the right fit. But slam dunk top 10 guy, no. Second round guy, no. He's a late first round guy for me.
Back to your Raider conversation. It's been stirring in my cranium. I mean, if Jeanty and Membo are both gone, do you pivot to edge number 2 or Mason Graham or
the guy with the most helium all of a sudden? If we're trying to pat each other on the back, Matt, you were first Jeanty to the Jaguars. I know where
you're going. Yeah.
And I was big on Michael Williams. When I made my second pass through all these prospects, it was like, and Membo's so if we're comparing Will Johnson and Campbell, by the way, the tape is awesome for both those players. And I still think Graham should be a top 10 player in this draft. His tape is awesome. And he's a pretty good prospect. I get why you don't.
You'd be very comfortable with the Niners taking him, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. And the Niners, I would argue more than any team here, is they need a double more than swinging for a home run. Like they can't miss on this draft. And you just plug Graham in and you feel good. So talking about sleeping well, Niners sleep great drafting Graham at 11 if he falls to you there. The need is huge. I think the leverage, like
that's his true floor.
So I went through and it's like Graham, his tape is just really good and he's solid. And I get not falling all over yourself to draft him in the top 5, but if he's there for the Niners 11, it's just too perfect. And so when it comes to Membo, he just checks so many boxes, right? You're like, man, okay, the athletic upside, and he's already good. And Michael Williams is similar in that way because you don't have to project that much versus some other prospects. He threw down a 40 time. He wasn't afraid. He's like,
he's a double.
Why is nobody running 40s? Jalen Walker, fast as heck at his workout, and he's afraid to run a 40 time. But Michael Williams runs the 4.7s like, this is what I am. I'm 4.7. I will stop the heck out of the run. And he
never come off the field.
Yeah, he just checks a lot of boxes. And when I went back over the tape, he was kind of a slow burn for me, where it's like, oh, you know what? I could really see it. And I don't like him on the interior as he was used at Georgia. I like him as a pure edge setting defensive end. And I think he's got some burst off the line. He's got a closing burst on the quarterback. You see that length. He's still only 20. There's a lot. And so I've been talking the 49ers fans into being okay with Michael Williams at 11. And he might not even be there at this point. So maybe that's the pick at 6 for the Raiders if Jeanty's not there.
If 11.5 was Williams over under, I'm going under earlier.
Right. I think he's going to be gone by 11 at this point. And I would say Shamar Stewart's a little more difficult, but his get off is rare.
Oh, it is.
The team is going to be okay with it. So he could be that same guy where it's like, I'm going to coach this guy up. And so he could be, it could kind of be either or with Williams. And I bet they're split. I bet half the teams in the league have Shamar Stewart ahead of Williams. Half of them have Williams ahead of Shamar Stewart. But you shouldn't be shocked if either one of these guys goes as high as, say, number 6.
I think the Saints is definitely in contention for both those guys. Like they've been pretty public that we want a Cam Jordan type guy. We don't want and we don't want the 240-pound guy. We want the big guy.
It's so fun, and you get these fun players, and like everyone wants to draft Matthew Golden, ran 4.29. NFL people are built differently, and Matthew Golden might go high, but you can't.
He's
rush
not that rare though.
You can't rush on 3rd and 8 if you don't get to 3rd and 8 and stop the run first, right? So all these like undersized 240-pound off edge rushers, they're not going to the teams with 4-man fronts in the first round. They're just not.
No.
And so that's where Shamar Stewart and Michael Williams have this huge advantage over James Pierce and Jalen Walker for certain teams. And certain teams, I could see them liking Jalen Walker more. Jalen Walker, by the way, has crazy helium right now. Everyone loves him. He might be the pick of 4 at this point. So he's got to be a guy I think you just have to put in there somewhere in your top 10.
And some of these undersized edge guys, to your point, it's different if you're the Lions in a dome and you put up 35 points and you win a lot of games, and you just need somebody opposite Hutchinson. It's a lot different if you're the Patriots and you're struggling to get to 14 points and you're going to win 3 games. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're not putting teams away. That's not your closer,
I don't know what the hell the Saints are up to ever. So I'm not going to talk to them. Shamar Stewart, sure.
Maybe a no lineman. Right.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to put Shamar Stewart there just because he's the most I have no idea player, and they're the most no idea team. And so Shamar Stewart, to me, that's my pick.
I don't think they'll take a quarterback there, though. The Saints.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know.
And I think that's probably where there could be some action in front of them for quarterbacks if a team wanted to come all the way up, like, say, the Browns. So the Browns at this point now could go from 2 to 12 or come from 33 up to 8. Like, I don't know what the Browns are going to do. They got they're one of the teams with a lot of options.
I know we're wrapping up here, but my closing thought is I can't imagine using or trading up to the 8th through 15th pick for Sanders or Dart. I just don't think they're that great of prospects.
Yeah, I agree.
They look like early day 2s.
Which really leads to it's going to be a lot of, okay, everyone's got to stick and pick in the first half of the first round, and all of a sudden the back half of the first round, there's teams moving up for a quarterback. There's a team moving up for a defensive lineman. There's a team moving up for their last first-round grade who's not going to be there at the end of the round. So that's where it's going to be fun and a whole lot of action at the end of round 1.
And I know that the Ravens and Chiefs and Eagles are going to sit there and get a guy that, man, I wouldn't have been shocked if he went 8th. You know what I mean? Right.
I do think with the only team we haven't talked about here in the top, and like the Jets are a weird one. I don't know. They can go a lot of ways. I don't like putting Warren to the Jets. I loved putting Membo there.
Right.
A little exercise. Membo's gone. Do they want to draft another possible interior guy with Will Campbell? Will Campbell starts to fall. Like Will Campbell and Graham start to fall in these scenarios, right? And so is it Will Campbell at 10? They just did all their interior work. They got to believe he's a tackle. So that's the tough thing with Campbell. He stops falling when a team believes he's a tackle. That could be 4. That could be
Niners,
11, 12, 13. He could be a that's kind of like where the fall
Miami
for like Graham or Will Campbell at around the 13 range, I think.
Yeah. Like Miami could stop those falls. You know what I mean?
Another guy with late helium is Kelvin Banks too, which I don't
quite see that.
People are talking about like whatever the over under is they take the under. He's going higher.
I've heard that too. I think the position he plays is sure helpful.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. There you go. Tell us the lies and the truths that you believe or don't believe at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Drop a comment on YouTube. Matt and I back tomorrow with all the latest draft morning right here. Peacock and Williamson.